In Hollywood, true character isn't shown when the cameras are rolling. It's shown in the dark, empty hallways when no one is looking. This is the forgotten story of a freezing night in 1988, a lonely old janitor, and the quietest miracle Robin Williams ever performed. The autumn of 1988 brought a strange, chaotic circus to the quiet, dignified halls of St. Andrew's boarding school in Delaware. For nearly a century, the school had known nothing but the predictable rhythm of ringing bells, scratching chalk, and the hushed whispers of privileged youth. But in November of that year, massive trucks rolled onto the frost-covered lawns. Cables thick as pythons slithered across the antique wooden floors, and giant lights turned the crisp gray afternoons into blinding, artificial summer days. Hollywood had arrived to film a movie called Dead Poets Society. Amidst the chaos of directors shouting orders, wardrobe assistants rushing with tailored blazers, and teenage actors practicing their lines, there was Elias. Elias was 74 years old. He had been the school's janitor for 32 years. He was a man made entirely of quiet routines. Every morning at 4 a.m., before the sun even thought about rising, Elias was there, sweeping the dust, polishing the brass door handles until they gleamed, and emptying the wastebaskets of boys who were destined for places he could never dream of. Over 3 decades, Elias had slowly become part of the architecture. He was invisible, a ghost in a faded gray uniform moving silently through the background of other people's lives. Elias didn't care much for movies, and he certainly didn't care for the disruption of his freshly mopped floors. But as the days turned into weeks, he found himself unable to look away from the man everyone else was watching. Robin Williams. From the dark shadows of the hallway, Elias would lean heavily on his wooden broom and observe the filming. He watched Robin stand on a teacher's desk, his voice booming with passion, inspiring the young actors to seize the day. "Carpe diem," Robin would say, his eyes burning with an intense, magnificent fire. "Make your lives extraordinary." The young boys hung on to his every single word, their faces glowing with the infinite possibilities of youth. But watching them, Elias felt a bitter, heavy pang in his chest. Seize the day, Elias thought, looking down at his calloused, wrinkled hands permanently stained with floor wax and time. My days are already gone. I seized nothing. There is no poetry left in an old man's broom. Elias carried a profound grief. He had lost his wife Martha 5 years ago, and since then the world had lost all its color. He was just waiting for the clock to run out, but as Elias observed the Hollywood star from the shadows, he began to notice something that the cameras completely missed. When the director yelled "cut," the brilliant fire in Robin's eyes would instantly extinguish. The booming theatrical voice would soften into a whisper. The manic, electrifying energy dissolved into a quiet, almost heartbreaking stillness. While the rest of the cast laughed and joked between takes, Robin would often walk away from the crowds. Elias watched him step out into the freezing courtyard alone, leaning his head against the cold brick wall, rubbing his temples with trembling fingers. He carried a weight, an invisible crushing pressure that no one else in the frantic crew seemed to notice. Looking at him through the frosted glass, Elias realized something profound. The biggest, most beloved star in the whole world looked just as tired, just as lonely, as the old janitor. They were 2 men carrying heavy buckets. Elias carried water and Robin carried the expectations of the world. It was a late Friday evening. The relentless filming had finally wrapped up for the weekend. The massive Hollywood trucks were powered down, and the crew had rushed off to warm restaurants and hotel bars. The enormous St. Andrew's Library was plunged back into its familiar towering shadows, lit only by the amber glow of the street lamps filtering through the tall, leaded glass windows. Elias pushed his heavy, squeaking cleaning cart into the grand room, expecting nothing but the comforting smell of old paper and dust. He began emptying the bins, moving methodically in the dark. But then, he heard a sound, a long, shuddering sigh. Sitting completely alone at one of the massive oak tables dwarfed by the towering walls of books was Robin. There were no cameras here, no adoring fans, no director telling him where to stand, just a man staring blankly at a script, his shoulders slumped in absolute exhaustion. Elias froze, his heart pounded. He didn't want to intrude on a movie star's privacy. He slowly reached out to pull his cart backward, hoping to remain the invisible ghost he had always been. "You don't have to leave on my account." A gentle, gravelly voice echoed through the dark, quiet room. Elias stopped dead in his tracks. He turned slowly, his hands gripping his broom. Robin was looking right at him. But he wasn't looking at him with the impatient gaze of a celebrity interrupted by a servant. He was looking at him the way one weary traveler looks at another. "I didn't mean to disturb your peace, Mr. Williams," Elias said, his voice raspy and hesitant. "I just need to empty the bins. I'll be out of your hair in a minute." Robin offered a faint, incredibly warm smile. "Please call me Robin, and please tell me your name." Elias swallowed hard. "Elias, sir." Robin stood up, walked around the heavy table and pulled out a wooden chair. "Take a seat, Elias. The dust will still be there in 10 minutes. I promise you, the dust always waits." For the first time in over 30 years of walking those halls, someone had asked the janitor to sit down. Elias nervously wiped his hands on his trousers and sat. Robin sat directly across from him. And then something miraculous happened. Robin didn't talk about the movie. He didn't complain about Hollywood or fame or his schedule. Instead, he leaned in and asked Elias about his life. He asked about the harsh Delaware winters. He asked how long he had walked these floors. And eventually, Elias found himself talking about Martha. He talked about how quiet his small house felt without her. He confessed that he felt invisible, that he felt his life hadn't amounted to much more than sweeping up other people's messes. Robin just listened. He didn't offer empty pity or Hollywood cliches. He looked Elias in the eyes and said, "There is honor in keeping the world clean, Elias. You make the space where the rest of us get to live." After a long, comfortable silence, Elias suddenly caught himself feeling a wave of guilt. "Listen to me rambling on like an old fool. Your job is to entertain the whole world. And here I am, after a long week, boring you to death with my sadness." Robin's eyes suddenly twinkled in the dim amber light. The exhaustion on his face vanished, replaced by a mischievous spark. "Elias, my friend, you haven't bored me for a single second, but since you brought up my job..." What happened next was a secret kept forever between the stone walls of that library. For the next 20 minutes, Robin Williams stood up and performed. But it wasn't his loud, manic television persona. It was an exclusive, brilliant piece of observational comedy, tailored entirely for an old man who had forgotten how to laugh. Robin did an impossibly accurate impression of the school's pompous, pigeon-chested headmaster trying to eat a complicated salad. He mimed the physical struggle of a janitor fighting a possessed, out-of-control floor-buffing machine. He turned the quiet library into a grand theater. And Elias laughed. He laughed until his ribs ached. He laughed until tears streamed down his weathered face. Robin wasn't performing for a paycheck or ratings or an Oscar. He was pouring his brilliant, exhausting, magical energy into a single, lonely soul, just to see the heavy lines on an old man's face lift into a beautiful smile. In that dark, dusty room, Elias wasn't a ghost anymore. He was the most important audience in the world. When the filming finally finished weeks later, the Hollywood circus packed up their cables and cameras and left Delaware. The school returned to its quiet, predictable routines. But Elias was fundamentally different. When he swept the floors in the early mornings, he hummed a quiet tune. When he looked at the empty desks, he remembered a man who taught him that there is poetry in every single life, no matter how ordinary it may seem. On Elias's final day of work before retiring, he opened his small metal locker to gather his things. Sitting perfectly centered on the top shelf was a small, beautifully bound book of Walt Whitman's poetry. Inside the front cover, written in black ink, was a note. To Elias, the man who keeps the world clean and the absolute best audience a guy could ever ask for. Thank you for the chat, Robin. Years later, in the summer of 2014, when the tragic news of Robin's passing broke the world's heart, Elias didn't weep for the famous movie star on the television. The old man walked over to his bookshelf, took down a worn book of poetry, and wept deeply for the kind, tired man in the library. The man who took the time to see the invisible. In a world that constantly tells us we have to be loud, wealthy, and famous to be important, Robin Williams reminded us that true, enduring greatness is found in quiet moments of pure kindness. He gave his brilliant light to the people standing in the shadows, even when his own world was slowly going dark. Let us carry that light forward. If this story touched your heart today, please subscribe to our channel and join our growing community. Share your favorite memories of Robin in the comments below, and help us remember the beautiful, gentle soul that Hollywood left behind. Take care of each other, and we'll see you in the next story.